Have the steps being taken by the government against black money delivered a decisive blow to corruption in the system? And to answer that question and others associated with it is Subhomoy Bhattacharjee, the consulting editor of the Business Standard. First of all, that very question. Have these steps curbed black money to corruption to a large extent?
Mark, we are very good at starting something.
Sure.
We start, but then lose out steam very soon. It's been the problem not of this government or that government. It's basically been a problem with the administrative system in India, and that's been a long time thing. So these are interesting steps. These are very good steps taken together.
Sure.
Across the world, there's a move towards digital economy. There's a lot of reports coming in. So there are two types of steps. One is the ones that is being worked on for corruption, all this sort of stuff. The other is to basically make it transparent. Both at a point they'll
if we stick
converge.
to corruption for the time being, Mr. Bhattacharjee, the fact is that a lot of bank officials, etc., have been involved even after demonetization in trying to subvert the system. The government has gone after them. No one will be spared, says the finance minister. So these are also steps that are being taken post demonetization to change the system completely.
Yeah, and so what I feel is that these are steps, but they become salutary only when they are taken on for a considerable length of time. It's not a question of that the steps are not powerful. The steps become powerful by being repeated. If it keeps on happening, if the steps do not seem to be flagging, then the message goes home. That's my point.
So, okay, so police action will be taken against those who are hoarding money, and that we can see is happening. Then on the other side, incentives are being given to people to move into the digital transaction mode. Now, this is going to have a lot of good benefits, and we know that even the noted economist Jagdish Bhagwati has come out in support of demonetization precisely because, of something like this, where, the whole cash economy, which incidentally, as the finance minister was mentioning, is also responsible for a lot of illegal money that is running around, will come to a stop.
True. In fact, as of now, in fact, in the global major economies, probably this demonetization process is probably the biggest experiment that is going along on monetary economics right now. The number of column inches that not just in India, but abroad, every major financial daily is looking at is phenomenal, and for right reasons. And it's obviously quite in tune that economists on both sides have talked about. So while we have Professor Mathasen and others objecting, we have Bhagwati, Subbarao, we have Vinod Rai, they have all come out supporting it. And they've given good reasons, and both sides have strong reasons. But yes, the point is that there's no doubt about the fact, which you pointed out very rightly, that digital economy is the way to go forward.
Sure.
People have an impression that cash is zero cost. It's not zero cost. Cash actually puts a cost on the owner. The cost and there is a cash cost, which the person pays in every transaction.
Sure.
It is an illusion to believe and to expect that cash cost me nothing more than what the price of the good is. The very price of the good is included in the cost of carrying, and there are several other costs. Digital cuts through that.
Sure.
Now, how well it will do through, it of course depends on the regulators, how RBI, how the banks, and the finance ministry, how they work out the system to make it seamless and cut down that cost.
Talking about that system, now the finance minister has hinted that, tax rates will come down. That would be natural, isn't it? Because, the system of collecting taxes will become much easier.
Definitely.
And obviously the cost of collecting the tax will come down.
That's right. In fact, Mark, in India, people have the habit of jumping into debates without looking into data. Now, if I look at the cost of collecting tax, there is a data that's there available on the finance ministry for people who would like to read it. It is there, and it shows that it was quite high. And when we took steps to actually streamline and post, when the system went into go more aggressive means of taking the tax on a online transaction basis, the cost has come down very fast. So as the cost comes down, now who pays for that cost? It is the taxpayers who pay for the cost, and it's quite a considerable amount of cost. It's about 4,000 to 5,000 crore rupees. In indirect tax, it's even more.
Right.
Now that cost gets cut off when tax cost comes down. That tax cost can therefore be channelized by a finance minister to give incentives. So yes, there is a benefit out of going paperless.
Sure. So we can see that the government is shifting the direction in a way, moving the economy into the digital mode. But some people may ask, is it a safe mode? Is it currently safe enough? Do you believe that technology has reached the stage where, these things are actually safe? Because a lot of us are already using the electronic mode. There may be a few frauds. There were a lot of credit card frauds in the days. They've come down, haven't they?
No, first of all, I mean, at the time when people used to carry cash from town to town, they were the robbers. Now the robbers wouldn't go out of the business. They would find out new ways to tap into the digital economy. So it's always going to be a cat and mouse game. So that is frankly no argument. I mean, carrying cash is as risky, hoarding it in home is as risky as any other time. So digital economy will also therefore will be susceptible to attack. But at the same time, what happens is, because it leaves a record, the risk for the person who's transacting in it comes down. The banking system is able to measure the cost of what has been lost and put in safeguards. So that is a very fundamental. So especially for the people who are at the poorer end, the costs are not there, because for them any transaction that they do is guarded by the fact that the banking system takes on the risk of saying that, yes, I know you made certain transaction, it didn't go through, or it was purloined, and so the amount of loss is measurable and it will be recouped. So that's a very major safety net.
Would you think that the government needs to do more than just give incentives? I mean, people need also to be educated in the entire electronic system, because many people say that this is beyond me. Many of the senior citizens say, I'm comfortable holding with, I'm used to the system of paying cash. You can't just suddenly move. Maybe Jagdish Bhagwati is capable of moving into the electronic mode. Maybe Amartya Sen is, but people of their age group may not.
Sure enough. I mean, after all, it's never going to be a total cashless world. There's going to be a certain amount of cash. The point is how much. We have 12% of our GDP basically dependent on the cash. And that is something which is very risky. That is what is being brought down. So even when it's brought down, as for instance, one of the targets that's being talked about is 6%. Even then, that's a big amount. So there will be lots of people who will be dealing in cash. But it shouldn't. But the operative word is that the use of cash should not be out of compulsion, but should be out of choice. So if somebody wants to say that I want to stay with the cash, fair enough. But it shouldn't be forced on the person. And unfortunately, what happens is that the poorer persons are forced to deal in a cash economy. And I mean, before this round came along, we used to have several stories in newspapers about people in railway stations, in the daily wage laborers who would sleep with the cash under their head, and they would have losses. There would be, there'd be lots of heartrending stories.
Absolutely.
I mean, those are also as real about the fact that, just as people are standing in the line and there's a problem there, those stories were also equally valid.
Right. We have, that's all the time we have for, but I would have liked to talk much more about the subject. I'm sure people are discussing it every day anyway. Thanks very much, Mr. Bhattacharjee, for being with us.